I don't know what to say, really. 3 minutes to the biggest battle of our professional lives. All comes down to today. Either we heal as a team, or we're going to crumble. Inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen. Believe me. And we can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell. 1 inch at a time. Now, I can't do it for you. I'm too old. I look around, I see these young faces, and I think, I mean, I made every wrong choice a middle-aged man can make. I pissed away all my money, believe it or not. I chased off anyone who's ever loved me. And lately, I can't even stand the face I see in the mirror. You know, when you get old in life, things get taken from you. I mean, that's part of life. But you only learn that when you start losing stuff. You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. Hell yeah. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw with our fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's gonna make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's gonna win that inch. And I know if I'm gonna have any life anymore, it's because I'm still willing to fight and die for that inch. Because that's what living is. The 6 inches in front of your face. Now, I can't make you do it. You gotta look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now, I think you're gonna see a guy who will go that inch with you. You're gonna see a guy who will sacrifice himself for this team because he knows when it comes down to it, you're gonna do the same for him. That's a team, gentlemen. And either we heal now as a team, or we will die as individuals. That's football, guys. That's all it is. Now, what are you gonna do?
So I don't know about you guys, but that gets me every single time. Every single time you need a confidence boost, a motivational boost. It teamwork is a big thing. Obviously, in any facet of anything really. Specifically speaking to us here at Fantasy and Frames, we have a great team dynamic. We do things together as a team. We make sure we put out the great content for you all, as well as develop really good friendships with ourselves. And that's what we care about here. We're all about teamwork here. And as you all are out there in fantasy football land, all you fantasy managers, you're about teamwork too. on your fantasy rosters. And good Lord, you need it this week because it is a I don't even know the right words to describe it. Not a minefield. It is just a
Wasteland.
field, a wasteland. Thank you. Yes, it is a fantasy wasteland for the first round of the fantasy football playoffs. Welcome to the Four-Eyed Pregame Show. With that, welcome to the Four-Eyed Pregame Show. I'm your host, Jorge Edwards, with Nate Markham, Brian Ford, and Jonathan Klanowski. Man, this is David Ibrahim will be joining us soon from ConnectGo. It is. I don't know who's playing. I don't even know where to begin with any of this. Like, it is first and foremost that game last night with New England and Indy. That was fun. That was fun to watch, especially if you're a Colts fan, obviously, for obvious reasons. But we're really excited this week because we talked about it last week briefly, and we released the bracket for our charity tournament, the 4-Eyed Championships tournament. So round 1 begins this week. So just to go through some of the matchups here, we got Earl English versus Josh Goldberg, Ryan Weiss versus Andy Wingerton, Joe Solo versus Micah _Dynasty FF, Josh Brickner versus FF Prestige. This is what it's all about, folks. You're representing your charities. A lot of great organizations being represented here. So we're looking forward to seeing who comes out and makes it to the semifinals next week. Ryan Weiss, is our defending charity champion. So he is back this week. The number 2 seed, though, not the number 1, the number 2 seed. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. So good luck to all the participants this week. And for those who are still we're still participating, AKA still, playing and showing interest, your charity that you chose to sign up with, you still can get some monetary donations going its way, depending on where you finish in the sleeper bracket for your individual division leagues. And so if you come out on top, you get some money handed to your charity of choice. So we try to make sure that all the charities, at least a good majority of the charities that are being represented here in this charity tournament are given some funds. Some is better than none, and this is the season of giving, so we're pretty excited about that. What we're not excited about is giving you advice this week. No, I'm just joking. I kind of am, and I'm kind of not, because it's kind of scary. And I'm sure you all have heard by now that there have been a certain number of games have been moved to Tuesday, to Monday. I believe it was the Browns, and the Browns game got moved to Monday night. The Washington football team versus Philly got moved to Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Did Rams Seahawks get moved to Tuesday as well, or is that a Monday? Tuesday as well. It is a show, ladies and gentlemen. And let me just say, this is not something that is a fantasy and frames recommended thing, but it's something that I do, and I think a few of us do here, and I'm sure you may have heard other places, but if you haven't, there's no guarantee that these games that got postponed will actually take place. There's an opportunity for them to actually get canceled. In that case, I would ask your commissioner. I know it's late in the day, early in the morning, late in the week to be asking this, but in my leagues, we have provisional players that are selected to take the place of players in games that end up being canceled due to COVID, just so you don't miss out on any points there. So that's something you want to bring up with your commissioners. Again, it's league dependent. Everything has to be agreed upon. If you have league constitutions, all the jazz that has to go into making rule changes has to be abided by that. But I'm just saying there are ways to navigate this minefield or wasteland of COVID fantasy issues in week 1 of the fantasy football playoffs. I can't remember, Nate. You tell me, have you ever been scared of a fantasy playoff week more so than this week?
No, but it's the fear of the unknown is probably the greatest fear that a lot of us have, and I think that's the unknown is if I don't have a provisional and I start my player doesn't play, I don't want to say I can sleep well and be okay if I start the wrong player, if I put in wide receiver X over wide receiver Y, and the player on my bench outscores them. It all happens. It happens. It sucks. We all get angry about it, but I'll live. But for me to lose a matchup because COVID was the cause, causation COVID, I would not be. That would be a little harder to pill to swallow.
Yeah, it's every year you make it to the playoffs, and just me speaking in particular, every year I make it to the playoffs. If like you said, if I lose, I lose. But this losing because you weren't even given a chance to play, that part sucks. It kind of reminds me of overtime rules in the NFL, where if the team scores an opening touchdown, then the other team doesn't get an opportunity to come back. It kind of feels similar to that. David,
although Nick's probably not complaining about that one too much.
I thought that was directed at me. Hey, David, how we doing, by the way, buddy? Speaking of the first place Chiefs,
what's going on? I was actually, oh god,
still crying.
I knew I was going to have to hear that.
I told you yesterday.
That was a brutal game.
It's all right, Dave. You can talk to me about the cricket if you want to get some anger off your chest.
I think I'm going to have to. That was just a trash game. This is why I don't like Mac Jones, and I don't think Mac Jones is the answer. The Patriots defense has carried them the whole way.
I saw your tweet about that. Yeah,
it's
it's crazy. Brian Ford, how are you doing, sir?
Not too bad. For one thing, I'm looking forward to the Fantasy and Frames expanding into cricket content. And
me and Dave,
there's room on the wall for another poster, I suppose. I guess I can.
And number two, I have a slight disagreement with Al Pacino. The most important 6 inches in my life are not in front of my face.
Boom! There it is.
And yeah, I real quick, I don't know that I put enough emotional investment into fantasy football as much as I love it as a hobby. I don't put as much emotional investment in it to be all that scared or worried or whatever. But for those of us who are prone to anxiety, choosing between some of these options and then kicking ourselves when we make the wrong decision, it just brings an extra layer of fun to all this.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Your definition of fun is interesting.
Yeah, Jonathan,
I'm the exact opposite. I will let it control my emotions for the week. You win or lose. But.
This is how I get my kicks. This is my entertainment. Which is why during the off season, it's like, what do I do? What do I stress out about? Damn it, there's nothing to stress out. I'm sure there's plenty, but neither here nor there. Jonathan, how are things
story.
There was hold on, Dave. Hold on one second. Jonathan, how are you?
That's right. Yeah, you go.
Yeah, all good. I've only got 2 more days of work, and then I'm off until January. So yeah, that's all good. Not to play into the stereotypes, but I've just been having a cup of tea, and now I feel like running through brick walls after watching that speech. So yeah,
nice.
Pumped up.
Nice. What were you gonna say, David?
It was a few years ago. I want to say 2014, maybe. There was one league I was in, and I just needed 1 point from AJ Green to get into playoffs. And he caught the ball, and I was ecstatic. But then he fumbled it, so I lost 2 points, and I was so pissed off. And then I was just angry. And my wife's like, "What's wrong with you yesterday? Is everything okay? Is anything I should be worried about?" I didn't have the heart to tell her it was because of pretend football. So it gets you sometimes.
Yeah. One of my best friends is really sick. She's like, "Oh my God, yeah, don't ask about it again. It's fine." That's 7 years ago, Dave. That's how long you can remember. That's incredible because I can't tell you what I did yesterday. And Dave's like, it was 3rd and 3. It was 48 degrees and AJ Green. I could relive it perfectly.
I think that's why I like fantasy football. Like when I moved to US about 10 years ago, and I just love the numbers aspect of it. And there's a lot to it. I mean, you guys always talk about ADOT and intricacies with I guess quality targets and what have you. But I think that's what makes the game fun. To be honest, you can do the in-depth analysis on it.
Yeah, no, it's while you're in it, it's a whole other animal. When you're looking back on it, I gotta be honest with you. Full disclosure, I was looking back this year, and I was planning, our content going into the off season based off of earlier this year. I really like seasonal analysis when it comes to producing content. In-season content, man, that is stressful. And just being a fantasy manager, that is stressful as well. It is. there are a lot of intricacies, like you mentioned, a lot of math that go along with it, a lot of narrative, a lot of coach speak, a lot of things a lot of things we don't know that we're still learning at, and we're getting better at each and every week.
Mhm.
But whether you're producing content or you're just a player, God bless fantasy football. That's all I got to say. Even though it drives us crazy sometimes, as it's going to drive us crazy this week. And speaking of driving us crazy, I got a start sit question for you guys because I don't know what to do. And so for those of you who tuned in to the Portland Frames episode on Wednesday, Ken Sonnenberg was on here, and I'm actually taking him on in a league. So Nate, no recommending Craig Reynolds for me this week, as you did on Wednesday. So I have Michael Carter in my second flex spot. Okay, because he just got activated, and I'm a big fan of Michael Carter. I have on my bench Jeff Wilson, the 49ers going against Atlanta. I have Chuba Hubbard against Buffalo, Julio Jones against Pittsburgh, and Terry McLaurin against Philadelphia. We'll start with you, Dave. Okay. Would you keep Michael
Not
Carter?
even a joke. I have a very similar one. I've got Jeff Wilson, Chuba Hubbard, Julio Jones, but I got Brandon Cooks and Odell Beckham there as well. But I like Jeff Wilson. I was worried about Deebo Samuel's eating into his time, but I had to look back at the stats, and the most carries he had in a game was 8. He just makes quality runs out of him. Don't get me wrong, but they feed Jeff Wilson the ball, so I like the opportunity with Jeff Wilson, and I can see the Niners getting off to a lead and just running out the clock with him.
You're not concerned about them running out the clock with Deebo Samuel out of the backfield?
No, I don't think they're gonna risk Deebo if they've got a lead. I mean, he's their weapon. He's their absolute star. So, I think it's pretty safe. If you have a look, there was one game Jeff Wilson started, and I think he got 19 carries. I'm happy with 19 carries out of my starter. What he does with it is a different story, but I do believe he's going to get 15 to 20 touches.
All right.
FYI, there's a few second lag. So if you hear me go quiet for a while, that's why.
Yep, we got it. No worries. Nate, what are your thoughts there?
I keep moving Michael Carter up my rankings every time I log back in. He went from obviously from around the 40s when it wasn't certain how much he was going to play. Then Robert Saleh says he's going to be heavily involved, and so then I move him up a little bit. Then I look at the number, the way Miami plays defense is this real, blitz heavy scheme. And I think, okay, blitz heavy, bad protection, a lot of dump offs. Michael Carter has, maybe 5-6 reception upside now, or not upside, but, maybe even an elevated floor. Now Michael Carter is my RB22 on the week. So I have to go with Michael Carter in this answer.
Brian, you're the resident jaded Jets fan. What are your thoughts here?
Okay. Yeah. So, I like Nate's point about the role that Wilson needing to dump off might play. I might go Jeff Wilson though in this one. I think there might be a safer floor there, and probably a better chance at a touchdown. Atlanta is, pretty much putrid when it comes to defense versus the pass, defense versus the run. I mean, they're a little better at the run, I think, than they are against the pass. But I think you gotta pick on the positive game script with Atlanta and go with the volume. McLaurin is probably going to draw Slay, and also we don't know what's going on with the quarterback there. You're also rolling the dice that Tuesday game happens. Yeah. So, all things considered, I feel safest with Jeff Wilson. So, yeah.
Fair enough. Jonathan?
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's the best matchup of those. Falcons 9th most points to running backs this season. Jeff Wilson was someone that I wrote about this week for the running back matchup article. So I think, as you guys have said, I think he provides the safest floor there. I think with McLaurin as well, he had an injury last week as well. I'm pretty sure he didn't even have a target.
It's concussion, I think.
And
He had a concussion,
Yeah.
so he was out with
Hubbard, I think it's that matchup is really tough. He's not seen on third downs, so his floor is too low for me. And with Carter, it's his first game back, so we just for me, there's as Nate said, there could be a safe PPR floor there, but we just I just can't trust the Jets, and we know that with Mitchell out, Wilson is going to be the guy that sees the majority of the first and second down work there in a game that they should be up.
Because I can also see them, I can see them, warming Michael Carter back in with Ty Johnson and Tevin Coleman. I'm pretty sure Tevin Coleman's in, isn't he? So
Yes, yeah.
I don't think it's going to be a true split work, but I don't see Michael Carter getting more than 10 or 11 touches, after his injury.
Even though Saleh came out and said that he should see significant work in this week, do you think that was just
Because-
coach talk, or?
We always believe what coaches say. No, I don't know. I'm just not buying it. I just can't see them risking. I think he's the future running back of that team. They know the season's done. They're not going to, risk a re-injure of their star running back.
Oh, we shall see. We got Joey Perps over on YouTube. Tight end question: Freiermuth, Knox, or Goddard? I gotta be honest with you. Every question I've had for tight end this season that's involved Dallas Goedert, I've never chosen him. Like, there's something about him, like I don't get it. I don't see it. I don't understand the Goddard love there. So for me, it comes down to Freiermuth or Knox. I like Freiermuth. I don't care who the matchup is. I just feel like he's one of the heavily involved tight ends in the passing game for Pittsburgh. Even though Knox is not exactly a bad second, I'd go Freiermuth first. Brian, what about you?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Carolina's defense isn't that bad, but what they have is really good coverage rank on PFF, and they also are very good against fantasy points against wide receivers, and that might be folks aren't throwing on them much, but that might maybe funnel some looks to Dawson Knox's way. And I think I kind of trust him more than Freiermuth. I didn't check how Tennessee is doing against the tight end, but for what it's worth, Fantasy Pros ECR has Knox at 5 half PPR and Freiermuth down at 11, and they like the matchup for Knox better. So for whatever that's worth, I think I might go Knox.
Jonathan?
Yeah, I think I would go Knox as well. He's seen fairly consistent targets over the last 4 weeks. He's seen at least 6 in 3 out of those 4. I think with Knox, you can still have a pretty good game without needing a touchdown. I think with Freiermuth, over the last couple of weeks, he's been a little bit more touchdown dependent. So yeah, I think I'd go Knox. I'm trying not to play guys late in those later games when I've got good options today. So yeah, I think I'd go Knox.
That's a good point. I got another question.
I don't know about Knox, to be honest. I'll tell you why, and this is where I'm going to channel my my Nate IDP. You're going to have Stephon Gilmore on Stephon Diggs, right? Stephon versus Stephon. With no Emmanuel Sanders, there's really no other wide receiver threat. Maybe Cole Beasley I'm worried about. So their only other real target is going to be Dawson Knox, who's going to be shadowed by Jeremy Chin the whole game. So I just don't know if he's going to get open for that many opportunities to be, to have 8-9 targets.
What are your thoughts? Well, what are your thoughts on Gabriel Davis, though, the wide receiver for the Bills? Do you think he?
I mean, look, I know he scored a touchdown against the Pats last week, but that was, it was just a red zone play, and really anyone can score when it gets to those things, whether it's a running back, the wide receiver 1, 2, 3. So I don't think he's their reliable, every down kind of guy. I think it's going to be a running game with Stephon Gilmore, as the primary option. I don't know. I'm just not as confident there. Give me Dallas Goedert. He really runs a ton of routes for them. Not just down the middle, down the seam. he'll run outside the numbers, which is impressive for a big dude. So I think he's going to get the opportunity. And his last game, I believe he got 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, he had 6 for 105 and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I can't remember the number of targets that he had, but I think
6.
he might have. He was heavily used.
With Minshew at quarterback, though.
That's true. I'll give you that.
Against the Jets.
That as well.
It's compounding. It's the
it's
the
a
gift
tough
that keeps
one.
on giving.
right.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. I like that start sit one.
Well, Joey, pick whichever rationale you'd like the most, and insert said tight end. Good luck to you this week. I got Jay here on YouTube. Also got Gallup, Ayuk, Robinson. Pick one from. Okay.
No, we know.
Yeah.
Easy.
James Robinson. James mother freaking Robinson this week. Urban Meyer is gone. Thank God that has happened. Darrell Bevell, the guy who orchestrated all the Marshawn Lynch seasons in Seattle with the running game. He's the new head coach there. He came out and said, James Robinson is our featured back. We will treat him as our featured back. Giddy up. Giddy up. This is the week to be excited for James Robinson this week.
Seems like a booby trap, though. I understand that all signs point to James Robinson. I don't know. I actually would go Gallup because I think he's stolen all of Dalton Schultz's targets, and he's a legit option there. They're airing the ball out there in Dallas. It's really those top 3 guys. It's CeeDee, you got Cooper, and then obviously Gallup. I'm good with Gallup for 7 to 10 targets, and what he does with a different story, I think he's going to do well.
Crap.
He has seen consistent targets, to be fair. But I'd still go Robinson. I think the thing that has really confused me about his usage over the last couple of weeks is that Trevor Lawrence has really struggled, and James Robinson has been the one sort of like good thing about the Jaguars over the last 2 years where they've been terrible. He's been really good. I haven't understood why they haven't just lent on him, and I think they will today because Lawrence has struggled, and so they're playing the Texans. I think we're in for a big Robinson day today.
Now, Nate, you've been a big proponent of Brandon Ayuk for obvious reasons the past few weeks. Are you still on board the Ayuk train, or are you going either Gallup or Robinson?
It would go. So I had looking at that between Ayuk and Robinson is challenging. I would lean towards Robinson between the two simply because I just think that with AJ Terrell blanketing or trying to blanket Ayuk, that might be the only separation whatsoever between the two. And if I have to make a lean one way or the other, because I obviously, like you said, I've been on Ayuk since week 8, week 9, and he's had 7, 8, 7, 6, 6, 10 targets each week and a touchdown in half those games. And I don't think that stops, but man, I do love James Robinson. I love how you went all the way back to Seattle with Darrell Bevell instead of his Detroit tenure.
Yeah, we're gonna forget
running
that.
backs there.
Yeah, we're forgetting that.
The trouble
focusing on the good, Nate.
We're really going to be relying on them having at least a close game, and we know the Jags, even though they don't have Urban Meyer there, are we expecting them to all of a sudden be a contender where they're leading games, where they can really use James Robinson? Chances are they're probably going to be losing, and they're going to have to air the ball out. That's my concern with Robinson.
Real quick question, rebuttal to that. How good were they last year?
Yeah, okay. I'm with you there. Fair enough. And Robinson was still a running back one.
But these
that's the thing. Like he was their main guy last year, and they were terrible earlier in the season. He was still getting 20, 25 touches, and he was still doing well.
Work out of the backfield receiving game also.
Can we also say
Carlos Hyde?
Trevor Lawrence, I think we need to shine the spotlight on him. I think he's been a bit of a bust this year. It's not all Urban Meyer's fault, boys. He's made some awful passes in awful decisions. He's had guys wide open and thrown to his second and third option. I don't know. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is worth the number 1 overall pick, to be honest.
Is it that, or is it that coaching was just god awful? And
all right, I have a game for Brian. Brian, here's the game of over under.
Oh, geez.
Over under touchdown passes for Trevor Lawrence since week 9.
Oh, I actually looked at
Over
this.
under 3.5.
Under.
Over under 2.5.
Ooh.
I'm gonna say over.
I'll say over just to make it fun. Sure.
Oh, that is incorrect. Over under 1.1.
I'm going to say under.
That is correct.
Oh,
He has one touchdown pass in the last 7 weeks.
He's awful.
6 weeks. Nope, 7 weeks.
And
6.
5 interceptions. That's ridiculous.
And 5 interceptions.
He's been sacked 14 times.
That's it.
That's ridiculous.
So I actually have a start-sit question, a bit of a gross one with Trevor Lawrence. So it's Superflex. I have to choose between him and Teddy Bridgewater. And yes, I am in the playoffs.
Teddy Bridgewater.
The blank roster spot.
I mean,
yeah, because there was part of me that was thinking, are we going to see a bit of a bounce back from Lawrence today?
You want to hope that, right?
So
and it is the Texans, but yeah.
So here, I guess here's something to let's look at it from the Ayuk and Gallup standpoint. These two guys have shown you that their offenses are kind of predicated on getting them the ball. We're assuming that Darrell Bevell is going to use James Robinson in a way that hasn't been used since last season. So would you rather have somebody who's shown you or somebody that you're assuming in round 1 of the fantasy playoffs? I would guess I would tend to lean, if that was my situation, to Ayuk or Gallup. So then it comes down to who do you hang your head on more? And both Dave and Nate had great arguments for both Gallup and Ayuk. Flip a coin. I don't see there's a huge disparity between these two wide receivers. The only thing I will say though is San Francisco has not looked horrible on offense, and what I mean to say, what I'm saying by that is Dallas has not looked invincible on offense. I believe the streak is still going where Ayuk, when targeted by Jimmy Garoppolo, still has a pretty good quarterback rating. Yes, Gallup has been targeted there, but still you're having a lot of competing options going there in the receiving game with Cooper and CD and the potential for Schultz. Whereas you're seeing Debo being used more as a running back nowadays and Ayuk being their primary wide receiver the past 2 weeks. So using that rationale, I could see why Ayuk would be an interesting option there.
Jonathan, to answer your question as far, here's a little question also maybe about Darrell Bevell. Do we think, in the hope of hopes, that maybe he not unlocks Trevor Lawrence, because I don't believe that's going to be the case, but he may be Marvin Jones. He has a relationship with Marvin Jones. Darrell Bevell does. Maybe he'll design some plays that way. And I'm not saying Marvin Jones is the key to unlocking Trevor Lawrence and vice versa, but Teddy. So it's Bridgewater or Lawrence.
Yeah.
And I don't want anything to do with Teddy Bridgewater. And I sure as hell don't want to. I mean, here's the one, I guess. The last time Jacksonville and Houston played, week 1, right? What did Trevor Lawrence do? Put up 332 and 3 touchdowns. So, I mean, that was his ceiling game. It was the only game he's had multiple touchdowns. It's also the game he had the second most interceptions, contrary to last week. But I'm gonna be able to recommend Trevor Lawrence one time this week and feel gross doing it, Jonathan. And I'm gonna say that I would start Trevor Lawrence over Teddy Bridgewater.
I like it. Let's have some fun.
All right, guys, I need you to stop what you're doing and pay attention to me. All right, everyone. This is actually the real reason why I jumped on this podcast. This is my main money league, and I'm down. The Patriots defense crushed me. I've got Herbert and Butker as my quarterback and kicker, and they got me average points. But so my running backs. So I've got Saquon, Jeff Wilson, Chuba Hubbard, and A.J. Dillon. I'm inclined to just play Jeff Wilson and Saquon, unless I can be convinced otherwise. Wide receiver is my question, right? So I lost DeAndre Hopkins. I got Mike Evans, but here are my other options. So I've got Amon-Ra St. Brown,
Okay.
Brandon Cooks, Odell Beckham, Julio Jones, Donovan Peoples-Jones technically, but I'm probably not going to play him. Who are you thinking for the wide receiver 2 and flex?
Brandon Cooks for me. I think against the Jags, I think I think he'll see consistent targets. So he was the first name that I thought, like, I would definitely put him in.
So pick 2 of them. I mean, would you go Amon-Ra St. Brown? He's been playing well.
I love him, but my gosh, the other where you were going to say something.
I was going to say Beckham, to be honest with you. He's finding the end zone in back-to-back weeks, as your flex. But Nate, you on Wednesday, you brought up an interesting argument for Julio Jones, how he has wide receiver upside there against Pittsburgh, which anybody can throw on Pittsburgh and run on Pittsburgh apparently this season. But at the same time, I'm not trusting. If I had to pick, I think Cooks. We can all agree on it. Brian, are you on board with Brandon Cooks this week?
He's got a really good matchup. He's usually the primary person for targets. Probably a pretty safe floor. Mills has been playing pretty well when called upon. It's not a great option. It is still Houston, but against Jacksonville, why not?
Right, I've currently got Amon-Ra St. Brown and Odell Beckham in the flex, and I just am not sure. I like Cooks, but he's away. And typically when teams play each other twice a year, they always, if a player blows up, they always plan to shut them down game 2. That's my concern with Cooks.
Arizona's defense has been playing pretty well. I don't know if I have the stats on where they rank versus wide receiver on my notes here, but they are a tough matchup, and there will be, I think, some volume for Jamal Williams, and even then, Amon-Ra has basically been, a lots of targets guy, and not necessarily a touchdown upside guy all the time. And OBJ again, week to week, is it going to be him or Van Jefferson? Who knows? And also, if you don't have the replacement player option, you're rolling the dice that game gets played. So I don't know.
It's true.
The Cardinals are the 4th toughest when it comes to wide receiver points against wide receiver points.
Are they really?
Yeah, they're 29th.
Yeah. Over the last 4 weeks, they're the 4th most generous.
Oh no, I'm looking at fantasy points allowed for the season.
I am too. I'm looking at fantasy points allowed, and the Arizona is 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. They are allowing 39.97 over the last 4 weeks to wide receivers.
Interesting. I see 22.3. How about that? It doesn't matter. Let's go with the most recent work. You said what now?
Me?
Yes, you. You're allowed how many points per game?
So they 39 to the wide receiver position. The last 4 weeks they've given on 63 targets. They've allowed 42 receptions, 529 yards, and 4 touchdowns over that span.
That's pretty good.
Obviously, that's a high completion rate. I have Amon-Ra St. Brown as a wide receiver 3 firmly this week. I actually have him ahead. I have him ahead of OBJ just because OBJ was out initially. I have to readjust that. But back-to-back 12-target games, I'm still concerned with Amon-Ra St. Brown. I really like him. He's actually one of my highlighted players to talk about just because of that. But I think I have to just move OBJ into that kind of – I think I would go Cooks and OBJ simply just because I think, like Brian alluded to, is that touchdown floor, that touchdown opportunity is so much greater with the Rams. There's a chance that Stafford I think I said that on Wednesday. I think I have Stafford rest of season as my QB1.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to do with him and OBJ's relationship that they've formed, which has been disgustingly good.
Disgustingly good.
Yes.
Nick Kobe, let's see what we got here over on YouTube. Sony Michel, Aaron Jones, or Jeff Wilson. Michelle Henderson split is unclear. Well, I think it is clear Henderson is going to be playing today, technically he should be playing this week. They cleared him to play this week, and it is a Tuesday game. So out of these 3,
I'm actually concerned about Aaron Jones the rest of the season. I've got to be honest.
Yeah,
I think AJ Dillon has really cemented his role as a 1A, 1B.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm not saying they go away from Jones. I just think it's what we saw in Ingram Kamara from 2017, or Devontae Freeman, Tevin Coleman from 2015.
Yeah, Jones got 2 touchdowns, but he was out-touched 15-8, I believe, last week. Right. And so, it's arrow up Dillon, arrow down Jones. So, yeah, he's a risky play too.
Yeah, I would go Jeff Wilson. Let's see what else we got here. We got here Malachi, right? Underscore 1476. So I'm looking in first place, 11-3, and I got 5 running backs. Pick 2.
You don't have a bye for being 11-3?
Yeah, seriously. If you're in first place, how do you not have a bye? Yeah.
Get the hell out of
it. I'm in one league where it's like the top 8 make it and number 1 has to play. I'm like, it's
can't stand
worst.
it. I hate that.
If I'm number 1 out of 8 playoff people, I should get some reward.
Maybe you join a fantasy and frames league next year, Malachi. How about that? Let's see. We got pick 2.
All right.
Rashad Penny, Devonta Freeman, AJ Dillon, Myles Gaskin, Jeff Wilson.
Golly,
man,
see why? Oh, man,
I like Penny and Wilson. I like Penny and Wilson. Like Penny just lights out last week. It's incredible. I think he's earned the number 1 job. Alex Collins has had plenty of opportunity and done nothing with it. I can't see them trusting him. And I think this week only, Jeff Wilson's got the opportunity. We've already discussed that, but
yeah, I feel safer with Dillon and Wilson. Rashad Penny's matchup isn't great, and when we're done with this one, I have a couple Penny-related start sits if you want to talk about those.
I would take Gaskin and Wilson, to be honest with you. I think this is going to be a gross matchup with the Jets in a good way for the Dolphins. And Jeff Wilson, just because of the matchup against Atlanta.
FYI, I think we've answered no one's questions so far.
We've given everybody.
I'm pretty sure everyone who's come in.
0 consensus.
Pick 1 out of this 3. Like we've all.
If you want consensus, look elsewhere. We're giving you our opinions, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, I was probably going to agree with Brian and say Dillon and Wilson are probably the ones that I would feel sort of most confident with. I mean, Devonta Freeman has been really good the last few weeks, but if it's Tyler Huntley there,
it is. It's not official, but it's looking that way.
Yeah, I just there's no real upside there against the Packers, who have been a pretty good defense the last few weeks, and I think Dillon probably has the chance to be to see the most touches in that backfield again in a really positive game script.
Right.
Just speaking of Ravens backfield, do you think that's the last we saw of Le'Veon Bell?
Oh, I hope so. Yeah, I say I hope, but I hope he doesn't look good. He doesn't look good. I think he blew his opportunity in Pittsburgh, and now we're all seeing what happened as a result. So
I don't get why the coaches in general are so adamant about letting some of these veteran backs. I'm not trying to knock on Adrian Peterson or Lev Bell or really even Devontae, maybe not Devontae Freeman. He's actually shown some burst and a little bit of elusiveness still. But why they feel like they have less to risk, and I get it, your job is pretty much at each given week you're on the hot seat. But why not let a younger, maybe rookie get a little bit more opportunities? And I don't know who's left in Seattle to even, maybe be condescending towards Adrian Peterson. But it feels like they'd rather lose with a shitty old veteran running back instead of the new hot, younger.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Devontae Freeman, that's what happened in 2015. Steven Jackson was the running back there, got injured, very early in one game. And that first game, he scored 3 touchdowns and I want to say like 140 yards. It was September 26, 2015. That was his first chance. And he was a stud that year, absolute stud. But anyway,
give me CJ Procise for Seattle if he's still in the NFL over those old running backs that you're talking.
Thomas Rawls? No.
Hey, don't hate on Thomas Rawls. I was the biggest Thomas Rawls fan back in the day. Always will be.
I thought Christine Michael was going to be something.
Christine Michael's up there too. Yep, C-Woke, exactly. C-Mike, which one you want to pick. Malachi, he had King Henry and Kareem Hunt, and they both got hurt. Congrats on still getting first place. So losing King Henry, that's a pretty good one. I'm assuming this is just an offense-only league with the ST and kickers, not IDP. Speaking of IDP, let's round out the show. Nate, I got an IDP question for you. If
Okay.
you all want to hear some IDP or get our takes on which IDP players we're high on this week, head over to fantasyandframes.com today. Check out both Nate and my rankings for IDP players. We'll have them finalized by noon, and you'll see there who we think we're high on all the different IDP positions, as well as IDP players overall. And then stay tuned next week when we get our IDP article back up and running. We've been out the past couple of weeks, but you've all been able to check out our rankings over at fantasyandframes.com, and make sure you do that. And do that for all of the offense players as well. All right, Nate.
Yep.
I got Neville Hewitt
Okay.
in my lineup because I read your four-eyed waiver wire targets.
Smart move.
IDP. Yeah, thank you. And I'm actually a huge fan of Neville Hewitt when he was with the Jets, just a huge tackle monster. Then he went to I want to say Buffalo. It didn't work out. No, or maybe it was Buffalo. Yeah, no.
Then Houston.
That was somebody else from last year for Houston. Yeah, he went to Houston. Didn't see a lot of work. Got injuries. You got COVID. Now he's in the lineup. Was leading with tackles last week. My other option is Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah.
Oh man, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Linebacker for the Browns.
I literally have them exactly back to back in my rankings.
So take your pick your poison, whichever.
I have JOK higher.
Okay.
I feel like, man, Cleveland. I think Cleveland's offense is going to be in some bad spots necessarily, and I think that Vegas has a chance to control that clock a little bit more. And if that's the case, I mean, we saw last week, JOK we were hoping for like 65% of the snaps, and he got close to 85, almost 90% of the snaps, turned it in obviously into good production. Vegas, very generous to opposing linebackers. The only concern I have is, do you want to take the guarantee points? But you play in a provisional league. And
Right.
So that might be one of my words of advice. If I have a chance or choice between two players that I think they're going to be even with, separated by, a point maybe here and there, I'm taking the person who's quote unquote guaranteed to play. I'd probably go with Neville Hewitt just in case something happens Monday with that COVID and everything else. I don't think they're that far separated. So I'm going to say Hewitt just because of stupid COVID.
Nice. Now, my last one I have here is I have Kemu Grugier-Hill for the Texans, who's on COVID protocol currently right now,
Right.
and he's occupying a bench spot. But on my waiver wire, I see Devondre Campbell.
Really?
Do I hope? I know, right? Do I hope that Grugier-Hill gets healthy again and I can insert him into my lineup, or do I drop him and bring on Campbell for a more sure thing for now and going forward through the playoffs?
I would start Campbell over the other two options you just gave me.
Over Hewitt.
He's been outstanding.
And
this
JOK.
season.
Yeah, he has been. I have him. He's my LB10.
Well, there you go. And you can see more of Nate's rankings over at fantasyandframes.com, as well as type in Nate Markham and Fantasy Pros, Fantasy and Frames all together in your Google search bar. It'll come up there. He's been dominating IDP rankings over on Fantasy Pros for pretty much ever since you've been in the ECR tournament. Yeah, I'm going to give you some positive hype there because it's a lot of good stuff over there. And so with that, I think let's just wrap up the show. We basically answered a lot of start-sit questions. We'll probably keep doing that the rest of the playoffs. And, of course, we'll be back on Wednesday for Fourth and Frames. We're going to give you some more information. And so thank you very much, Dave, for jumping on. Brian, Jonathan, Nate, as always, great work. And we will catch you next week. Good luck in round one, folks. If you have any more questions, hit us up on Twitter, and we will be happy to help you with that. So take care.